TMI. Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler and Jim Kaiju Baker.
Experiment 626 is loose
No.
in the wires. Go, do that again.
I'm going to do it throughout the show. I'm going to try. At one point, I think he actually says, Chewbacca.
Chris Sanders, who's one of the directors of this film that we are about to discuss, is also the voice of the main character.
We are talking Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo and Stitch,
And,
yes.
You were talking Stitch, the alien illegal genetic mutation on the loose, as you mentioned.
And we haven't done one of these episodes in a long time. This is a 5-bucket episode.
This is a 5-bucket, and it's going to be a very short one because I love this movie. There you go. Episode's over.
Now, if you've ever listened to us before, you know at the end of our lengthy discussions of each individual movie, we give it a ranking, and our ranking consists of popcorn buckets. 5 being the absolute best. You've got to be really good, mean something to us personally to be a 5. So because of that, we saved the 5-bucket movies for their own deep dive episodes, which is what you're listening to here. I guess the best you could do on a normal episode is 4 3/4, right? You can't go any higher than that on a normal episode.
There have been times when it's a secret 5-bucket that
where
somebody will
you've
reveal.
changed your
Right.
mind.
Yeah.
At some point on
that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
And I think the 5 buckets that we've recorded up to this point are under 20 episodes out of the 350
which is you can't just like deal the cards and give 5 buckets out to everybody that you can see. This has got to be a special thing. So this is why they are they're limited in number, because you got to have that criteria.
And they're personal too. And with the live action dropping 2 months, May, they're starting to release trailers. People are asking me, did you see the new trailer for the live action Lilo and Stitch? And I'm like, yeah, I am so apprehensive about these reboots.
I've only seen screen grabs from the trailer.
Only screen grabs.
So Stitch looks pretty damn good to me.
He looks pretty solid. I will tell you, the little girl that they got to play Lilo looks pretty spot on as well. The one thing we're going to talk about this movie is its very unique look and the design of the characters and how they really differentiate from like your standard Disney style. And that's all thanks to Chris Sanders. This guy,
they still are Disney-fied in some way.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. You're right. But it's even talking about like the backgrounds, the fact that they decided to watercolor and hand paint the background art, which hasn't been done since Dumbo, 1941, which gives it this very lush, soft, ethereal feel to it on top of these two characters, which are just, bipolar opposites. Yeah.
It's beautiful. And the setting of this movie in Hawaii just adds to the beauty of the watercolor.
Which is crazy because this story has been around since 1985. Chris Sanders, who we mentioned, is a co-director with Dean DeBlois. Sanders not only was a co-screenwriter, co-character designer, but he provides the voice of Stitch. And this was a children's book that he has been carrying around since 1985, unsuccessfully trying to pitch it. It was actually called Lilo and Stitch, a love story of a girl and what she thinks is a dog. So, but if you look at those early designs and watercolor illustrations that he submitted with his proposal, these are the characters.
The original story that Chris Sanders came up with, it was a creature in the woods that made friends with all the forest animals around him. So, and that became set in the human world.
Gotcha. Yes.
So, I know all this because I watched the 2.5-hour documentary on my DVD for Lilo and Stitch.
You
So
must have a newer DVD because my DVD, while it did have some behind the scenes footage, I found more stuff on YouTube than I did
oh,
that was
really?
on the
Yeah.
DVD.
What I have is from, I think, 2012, 2013. It's a
Okay.
2 disc set, and it's
Oh
on the
yeah.
second disc
Wow.
that's got a huge deep dive
Gotcha.
into the making
Yeah.
of this movie.
Yeah, I was wishing I was hoping that I could have found it on YouTube. I did not.
Hmm.
So I had to rely solely on my wits to
So
figure
yeah,
this
at some
crap out.
point, one of the producers of the movie said, "You know what? This would work better if it was set in the human world, and to give the character of Stitch like a human counterpart that can relate to him, and not a little boy, because a little boy might be more of a like partner in crime with Stitch, somebody
He'd
that's
be
kind
on board. He'd be on board with all the
yeah,
mayhem.
somebody
Yeah.
that's kind of fighting him."
Right. That's actually pretty funny.
Yeah,
Oh no, is this the original woke Disney movie that
it
started
could be.
it all?
It could be.
No. Well, no, Disney princesses. Lilo's a princess, straight up. Although so's Nani. So it's yeah. We could just get into the I wish I had seen that behind the scenes.
Has Lilo ever been considered a Disney princess?
No,
That's a
I
good
don't think
question.
so. Yeah, I don't think she's ever shown up, even like in Ralph Breaks the Internet, where all the Disney princesses are there.
Oh, that's too
I
bad.
don't think Lilo's ever been included, which is too bad because she really is. Although you're introduced to Lilo and her older sister Nani, who is her caretaker. And Lilo's very broken. She's a very broken little girl, but she's also incredibly strong. Because, like you said, if this character was a little boy, he would completely be on board with all of Stitch's shenanigans. So that's
Yeah.
a good call on their part because she's having none of it, and he's just made for destruction. So we get this sequence at the beginning. He's on trial, and they give him one chance to prove his humanity, I guess, that he's not some monster. And he just sticks his butt in the air and screams out, "Mika Nana Krista!" And everyone loses their mind.
Which, people faint. So
The robot
I really
pukes up
wonder.
nuts and bolts.
Yeah, I
So
really
wanna know
wonder what that meant.
I wish there was a translator. But the character designs in this from the beginning, all these aliens, and even this spaceship, this giant spaceship, which looks like a giant space whale. Gantu, who I think is the laziest out of all, he's huge, but he kind of looks like a cross between a hammerhead shark and I don't know, some
He's
kind of
he's Jabberjaw.
Oh, I never made that connection. He does get no respect. No
No.
respect. Oh. If only he had a traveling band.
So this movie comes out in 2002.
2002. So we're going 23 years.
Yeah, and it's a big summer release, right? And I don't know if it's the last, but it's one of the last, I'm sure, of the great Disney 2D tradition. When I say that, I just mean straight 2D animation. It's not, maybe it's enhanced somewhat. I'm not quite sure.
We're gonna we can talk about that a little bit on the back end because up to that point, so leading into this, you had Tarzan, which came out in 99, Atlantis, which was the year after, and then Treasure Planet, all of which leaned into that new technology called deep canvas. So think of like those scenes in Tarzan where he's a 2D character, but he's interacting with the trees and the environment, and he's skateboarding down the side of the tree or whatever. So they're able to take those painted trees and almost create them in a 3D environment. And they completely did away with that. It's this, I mentioned Dumbo earlier, and I think what Disney decided was, like you said, they're kind of coming to the end of this whole animation second renaissance. And this was what they considered a cheap throwaway movie because the backgrounds were all hand painted. For the most part, there was no 3D. If you look at like some of the chase scenes at the end with the ships, you can clearly see that those are built-in computers. Those are computers.
I was going to ask you that because the vehicles all look extremely smooth.
Yeah.
The guns at the beginning that are aiming on
Yes.
Stitch.
Yeah.
look,
Yeah.
just the fluidity of their motion is amazing. So I'm like, that can't be hand drawn.
Yeah, so stuff like that. But otherwise, once he's on Hawaii, everything is organic. Everything has a very organic feel. And like I said, the character designs are very unique in the sense that they're bottom heavy, if that's the correct, like Nani's legs are chunky. She's thick. Lilo's got this bulbous nose. Nani's got like this bulbous nose. Cobra Bubbles is just a block of a man. And so I think they've played into that, especially like in the spaceships, the way that they look very, like I said, almost like a giant space whale, very organic looking. Even Jumba's ship at the end, which we'll talk about because I've been watching this movie for 20 plus years and there's a deleted scene I knew nothing about.
Yeah, that was on the DVD that I had. It was that among some other deleted
Well,
scenes.
that's interesting because I've read that there's no mention of it on my DVD whatsoever. There's a couple of deleted scenes, but this was like a completely finished animated sequence that they went back and redrew because of the events that took place just a year prior.
Yeah,
so.
September 11th.
Yeah, like you said, 2002. This character is unlike anything Disney's really ever thrown out there. Up to this point, we're Hans Christian Andersen, we're following, all these classic storylines, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. And one of the things they did to promote this was to cut these little trailers where Stitch inserts himself into these movies that we've all grown up and loved.
Into I think Little Mermaid is one of them.
In Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, the big ballroom scene where they're dancing and he starts crawling on the chandelier and it crashes. Aladdin, he steals Jasmine right off the flying carpet. Lion King, all of a sudden it's him, not Simba, being lifted over the circle of Life Rock,
which was brilliant. Now this was a surprise to me even back then, because now you're into the Pixar generation, even in 2002, because as much maligned as it is, I loved A Bug's Life, obviously Toy Story behind that. So you've got all these heavy hitters coming out from Pixar, and this is the way that the industry is going. Even moviegoers could tell. So it's surprising that this wasn't relegated to like a direct-to-video release. And I'm so glad that it was. I saw this at the drive-in. I remember it.
Did you?
During its release in 2002, yeah.
Yeah, you're a lucky man, because 2002 was my second child was born. So I probably didn't see this until it dropped on video.
I didn't know much about it. I just knew the character of Stitch from all these marketing things that were.
Sure. Yep.
So when it started, I thought it was a short because, it has that Disney, the old, when I say old, I mean like 90s style Disney logo of the castle, not the grand castle that we know today, but just the outline of the castle. And then it gets beamed up. And then suddenly you're in a courtroom scene on a spaceship with aliens. And I'm like, is this a short? Has the movie started yet?
What am I getting into here?
Because I didn't know what the whole backstory of Stitch was. And I'm like, it's just
which is great.
The James Bond opening before the title credits. Yeah.
But that's, long gone to those days where you watch a trailer now and they tell you everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go in, whatever. Just the character was showing up in these little teasers. He's weaving his way through the Disney library, so to speak. And they did the same thing. So the live action, again, which drops in May, during the Super Bowl, there's a commercial where it looks like it's part of the game. And all of a sudden, everyone in the booth starts screaming there's something on the field, and it's Stitch running around. And it's a little CG Stitch running around. So they're picking up the same playbook to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But the fact that you didn't see that because you didn't watch the football game.
I did see that. I watched. Okay. That's the only football game that I watched during the year.
I thought, okay.
If I have money riding on it, and I won $50 actually this year.
Nice, good for you. I lose every year. I might as well just hand you my money now.
But the other thing about those ads, not the live action one for the Super Bowl, but the ones from 2002, it places Stitch in that lineage of Disney characters. So it puts him in that Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin strata already. So you, as a moviegoer, are thinking of Stitch next to these other movies that you hold so high. So I think it's a brilliant tactic on Disney's part. Stitch is
Yeah.
firmly in the Disney universe. Maybe I've just coined that term. I don't know, but he's in there now, and the movie's not even out yet, which is why it's so disappointing that they never, gave Lilo a princess status. I think somebody should get on that right now. Anybody listening to this.
We should start a campaign.
Yeah.
I think she's like 42 now, though. So I don't know. How long can you hold princess status?
Yeah.
Although, we'll talk about it, which is this movie was quite the success and spawned numerous TV shows and directed, like you said, direct to video sequels. And what was interesting, my DVD, you get those little previews at the beginning.
Yeah.
And you really saw where Disney was going, because I got a Jungle Book 2, Atlantis 2, 101 Dalmatians 2, and an Inspector Gadget 2. So all direct to DVD.
But no Scamp's Revenge?
No, unfortunately. I think you got salmonella eating some raw pork outside.
Outside the Italian restaurant. Yeah.
Right. You see this and it's so glorious. It's so gorgeous to look at. Like I said, the character designs themselves outside of the story are just sumptuous. I don't even know how else to put it. They're so unique compared to what we've seen. And then what came afterwards, because like you said, the onset of CGC and not CGC, just CG, what Pixar was doing. You couldn't do a movie like this with Pixar. I mean, you could. It would probably still have the same heart. And that's what I'm worried about, is replacing these people with live action actors.
Well, it looks like, from what I've seen, they've gotten the curiosity and innocence, that might be a stretch using that word with Stitch. That scene where he's, about to touch noses or get kissed on the nose by the girl. That's what I've seen, and I assume that's in the trailer. It looks adorable, this thing. It looks like it could break your heart. Listen, I watch this movie and those damn hula songs break out, and I get a little misty-eyed, because this is a family favorite. This is right up there. Like I said, Tarzan, we just watched Tarzan, my wife and I, recently, and it's a banger of a movie. You got to be all in on a Phil Collins soundtrack. Yeah, I've never seen Tarzan. Never.
What?
Nope, never seen it.
It's right there at your disposal. It's right on Disney Plus.
Because there's a window of movies that I just stopped watching. And it's that late 90s era. Right. I think starting with maybe Hunchback, and then up until Lilo and Stitch.
You can skip Hunchback. But when I first met my wife, she had Little Mermaid bed sheets. So that right there was like, all right, I'm in. Let's go. So we did. We went to these movies, before we had kids. And then once my kids came along, then, so that window that you stopped is where I really got invested. Again, Atlantis, which we've never talked about, and it's a fantastic movie. The Tarzan, the Treasure Planet that we've talked about. Do yourself a favor. Go watch Tarzan. It is pretty well done.
Yeah. Okay.
And for the most part, there's not, like, I don't like movies that all of a sudden, you watch like Robots, and there's so many like pop culture jokes in there that are relevant to like when it came out.
Yeah.
So when the robot breaks into, Britney Spears, you're just kind of like, oh, that's dated. So, but for the most part, Tarzan stands alone, and it's pretty solid. Not a Lilo and Stitch level. I'm going to put that on there. But these movies do get me a little misty-eyed, not only because I watched them, with my kids and whatever, but I do have I always refer to Stitch as my spirit animal.
Oh, really?
Yes. And anybody listening, you can't see, but I am wearing my Stitch shirt. So a couple years ago, we had a planned trip to Maui And I found myself a Stitch shirt because I can't go to Hawaii without wearing Stitch. No one there was like, "Hey, that's our official mascot or
That's our
unofficial."
mascot. Yeah, he's on the
Yeah,
driver's license in
correct.
Hawaii.
There you go.
Uh,
So speaking of driver's license, so when he crash lands on Earth and he gets run over by the truck, the license plate is probably Easter egg number one, which is the A113, which is also the license plate of Tow Mater and the Planet Pizza truck.
oh,
Because
really?
A113 is right up there with THX 1138 for Lucasfilm. It was a room, I think, at California Institute of the Arts where a lot of these guys studied. So it's like a very inside joke. And that is my favorite Stitch, by the way. The four-armed spaceship suit with the ray gun, just hissing at the rain and ready to shoot that frog because he's just an angry thing until he gets run over by
But
the
the truck takes him out. So
he takes out every tire on that truck too. So fair game.
But he gets revenge on the truck a little bit later.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's a nice little callback.
Yeah.
So
he escaped his prison term in a red cruiser. He took the red one.
Right. And that's a great sequence. That's a fantastic sequence again.
So again, it kicks into high gear, just like a James Bond movie pre-credit sequence, right?
And very much so.
And then
you're right, because this is all pre-credit. Yeah.
Yeah. And because the credits is the Hawaiian roller coaster ride song, and
which Chris Sanders wrote.
Really?
Yes. I'm telling you, this guy is, he's right up there with like a Taika Waititi or something. He's just like, this is my world, man. This is what I'm.
We haven't mentioned the MVP character here yet. Agent Pleakley, played by Kevin McDonald.
Yeah. Any Kids in the Hall fans out there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Pleakley is fantastic. And again, like I said, a very bottom heavy character because he's just like, I don't even know, like a slug. He's got this bulbous head, but then he just has like this really tapered tube of a body. And then just these blob of legs. He's got 3 feet. I can't even imagine like trying to animate this. Like, how would you animate a character with 3 feet walking? He's brought in as an expert on the planet Earth.
Yes, they just want to destroy Earth once they see that Stitch has crash landed there. Like, no, that's the breeding ground for mosquitoes. They're an endangered species.
Right? Which is a running joke as well.
Yeah.
But so you've got this scientist that's on trial for creating this thing, and you're like, all right, this is your problem. You go find him. I'm just going to escape. I'm not actually going to follow through on this. Wait a minute, you're giving me a spaceship. So they think he's going to die because Stitch is so heavy he can't swim. And they see that he's going to crash into the ocean. And then lo and behold, as they zoom in, they realize he's going to land on Hawaii. And he's on Kauai. If you're going to land on one of the Hawaiian islands, Kauai is the one to go to because it is most desolate. But there is a sequence where he's trying to escape from Lilo and he realizes he's completely surrounded in water and he can't go anywhere.
He gets squirted throughout the movie, just like a naughty dog would.
Yeah.
And it really angers him because he doesn't like water.
Yeah. He just hisses at her. So again, this character is because he's complete opposite of what Lilo is. He's just this ball of energy who his whole purpose is to destroy things. And the one thing we talked about, these deleted scenes, and there is a deleted scene at the beginning of the movie when he's on trial and they're showing him on a planet and he's just knocking over buildings and then goes to the center of town and starts turning all the traffic lights green so that everyone's getting into car accidents. So clearly he must be destroyed. And now he gets there and he has nothing to destroy. There's no cities. There's nothing. We didn't talk about this little girl, David Chase, who plays Lilo, just a spot on performance. You find out, she's not well liked. All of her peers think that she's a bit of a freak. She's being raised by her sister because in a little throwaway back, you find out that her parents died in a car accident. And this is where Cobra Bubbles comes in because he is basically a caseworker.
Now, this I still don't get to this day. Is he a planted man in black or is he actually a caseworker? Did he beat up the caseworker and tie him up somewhere and take his clothes, and now he's pretending to be a caseworker.
I think it was just dumb luck because he was already visiting her before Stitch even crashed.
But then, like, the Grand Councilwoman knows who he is.
I mean, you know why? Because she saw him in Pulp Fiction. That's Marcellus Wallace. She's like, I know you. I saw you last night. I saw you in that Tarantino movie. He's basically playing the same character.
Or does he moonlight as a social worker and he's actually a man in black on his day job?
You know what? That's probably better. I'm going to think man in black's probably not paying the bills. You know, you might get some Secret Service.
And he's a terrible social worker. You know, he gives...
this kid should have been taken away from
Nani. He gives Nani like every chance in the world, you know, after she's right. Almost killed Lilo numerous times.
I'm going to bash your head in.
And so now at the end, I'm just going to fast forward to this since we're on this train of thought. At the very end, when David comes, right, that's the boyfriend's name.
Yes. Yeah.
Say, I got you a job at the store down there. Right. And she says the social worker's on his way. Lilo, stay here by yourself.
Yeah, you know,
get me in trouble one more time.
Yeah. Okay.
Just take her with you. What's the problem?
Yeah, leave a note. I'm down getting a new job. Yeah, there is some leaps in logic here.
Lilo at the very beginning, she's late for dance class because she loves to take pictures, right? That's established early on. There's pictures all over her wall. She's got the camera with her at all times. She also carries around what looks like a character from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes, very much so. I can't remember what that... Scrump. Yeah.
Scrump.
She's got eggs in her head.
Yeah. And so Lilo does not get along with the other little girls in her dance class. She actually gets into a fight with one of them and bites her.
This is interesting because that actually comes back as well. So at the beginning, when Stitch bites Gantu, and then he goes, does this look infected? Yeah. And then later, Lilo bites the little girl, and she goes, I think this is infected. I'm like, so they're similar in the sense that they're misunderstood. But the reason she was late for the hula class was that she was out feeding her fish Pudge. It was Wednesday. She had to feed Pudge a peanut butter sandwich. And if you look at the very opening credit, you see the fish swim by with a sandwich in its mouth.
I didn't notice that, actually.
Go back to as soon as the logo shows up, Pudge swims through with a sandwich in its mouth. So you think she's lying. And they're like, Lilo, what do you need? She goes, I had to go buy peanut butter. She goes, I had tuna. I can't give her tuna. That's an abomination. And then we find out.
Now we talked about the deleted scene with the plane. Did you get the deleted scene with Pudge the fish on your DVD?
Yeah, and I'm glad they cut this because
yes. I think Stitch's approval ratings would dive to the bottom of the barrel if this was in there.
This is just cruel, and I'm glad that it never made it past the pencil stage. But it's interesting because what I did see of the behind the scenes stuff, which is the way all these movies are made, it's by committee. You've got the big board, you got the act 1, you got act 2. Here's all the things that could happen in act 3, and you're just trying to connect the dots and make a cohesive story out of these two characters. But yeah, Pudge comes back in and meets an untimely demise by seagulls because
Stitch like tosses him out of the water or something, and
they go to feed him or something, I think. Yes. And he was just being cruel.
Because Lilo takes him out of the water and picks him up like a dog or a cat.
Like a dog, yeah.
And then so she offers Pudge to Stitch, and who tosses him.
He just tosses him.
And then the seagulls come, and then he's out of the water too long and he dies.
Thank you for not including that.
Yeah,
because you're right. It would. So they had to backtrack on some of this, like you said. So Stitch ends up getting run over by the truck, and they take him to the pound. The guys that were driving the truck said, "We killed this thing. Take it to the pound." Just so happens that Nani takes Lilo. Let's go get you a dog. You gotta do something with your time here. And she immediately finds Stitch. And yep, this is what I'm going to adopt.
Obviously not a dog. So this is the worst attendant here
Right.
ever.
Well, they thought, she goes, that thing was dead.
And why would they put it with the other dogs if
I
it's
don't know,
dead?
because it was a fun sequence, I guess. All the
Because
dogs are
because
hiding.
we're running low on dog food. Let's give them something to eat. So
And of course, he immediately tries to escape, and then by then, Jumba and Pleakley are on the island and tracking him. So he's not going anywhere. That's where he tries to escape on the big wheel.
and Stitch, as bad as he is here in the beginning, sees that Jumba's trying to shoot him and pulls Lilo in the way. So he knows that he
he's
won't
using
get
her
shot.
as a shield.
Yeah.
Nice dog. But they have to temper him and show that he's still like you said, she's using, the squirt gun to try and tell him he's a bad dog. And she wants him to go to bed and he won't go to bed. But he takes all the books and everything in her room and he builds like San Francisco, which I'm like, how does he know what San Francisco looks like? He just crashed on this island.
Mm-hmm.
But then he destroys it, Godzilla style. So it's fun because he's fulfilling his programming, I guess, which is to destroy things.
So she has to keep him busy. Why don't you make something instead of destroying something?
Yeah, so that's what he does.
Yes. Before this, we're introduced to the word ohana, which, just for anybody that's seen this movie, that should trigger the waterworks, just the mention of that word.
Ohana. More so when at the end he says it to Nani. Because up to this point, I don't think she even realized that he could talk, but he's like, Ohana means family, or one gets left behind or forgotten. And you're like, yeah, because again, this is a broken family. The parents have been killed. Nani's losing her job left and right. David's not doing much better. He's catching himself on fire nightly. He's trying to hook up with Nani, and she wants none of it. She can't. And there was a deleted scene where they got in a fight after Cobra Bubbles, and Lilo runs to her room, and then later Nani comes in and tries to give her a piece of pizza or something. But I guess initially it wasn't the screen test. It wasn't clear that they were siblings, so they had to kind of clear that up a little bit. But yeah, clearly they're both hurting. They're both very damaged characters. Like you said, Lilo carries around this camera, and she's obsessed with tourists, fat, overweight tourists, especially this one gentleman
who's got a mint chocolate chip ice cream cone.
Yeah,
he can never
goes
enjoy.
well.
Yeah.
That never goes well. This is like Lucy taking away the football from Charlie Brown.
And this guy, he is going to have such bad blisters on his shoulders and his arms because he's got the worst farmer's tan.
But that's actually one of your first hidden Mickeys. Is on his suit. There's a hidden Mickey.
Oh, there is?
Yeah. But she also has that picture that she keeps underneath her pillow of her family, and that's where the idea of Ohana. And you got to think, they live and breathe by this mantra that, never leave anyone behind. And yet both parents have perished and left them behind. So they don't have a family.
And as Jumba keeps reminding the audience, helpfully, Stitch, I never gave him any greater purpose. He has nothing. And then whenever he says something like that, it cuts
the Stitch going, well, damn, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
But this leads into one of my favorite tropes of this whole movie is this. It's just chock full of Elvis songs. It's a missed opportunity that the one Elvis movie that took place on Hawaii was Clam Bake, and we don't get a Clam Bake song.
Well, I think in some way, even though you don't get those songs, Elvis, because of that, is somehow, I think, in a lot of people's psyches tied to Hawaii, because he did a concert that was live pay-per-view.
From Hawaii. Yeah. I mean, it's not like he, had an estate there or anything.
No, but I think Hawaii when I think Elvis. It's just I can't help it. And here he is. He shows up in this movie as well.
This movie has more Elvis songs than most Elvis movies. I think it wasn't until the Butler movie that came out a couple years ago that finally, as far as like actual Elvis songs, Lilo's trying to teach him to play the guitar. And then they're building up. He finally goes out onto the beach and he's all dressed in Elvis regalia. And he's jamming out, man.
Finds Lilo's Ugly Duckling book, which must be like the 200-page version because it's a huge tome. I'm like,
Correct. Well, there's some nice pictures in there, but that's, I think, where they bond. That he understands that he is the ugly duckling, as is Lilo.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of pathos.
And when he
going
leaves, like, he goes to run away, I think, a little bit later, and he takes that book with him.
Yeah, there's a lot. You would think, because you got Pleakley, and there's that scene where he thinks he's being blessed by the mosquitoes coming down to feed on his blood, and that doesn't end well. But they go into like full on Bugs Bunny dress and drag mode with Pleakley, and my fear is this live action is going to do away with that. As a matter of fact, I get the impression that somehow they have some kind of holographic projector that's going to make them look human.
Well, have you seen the screen grab of Pleakley, or is he in the trailer? I've seen the screen grab of Pleakley from the movie.
So does he look like the animated character? Because
yes.
I'm going to tell you right now, I have done my best to stay away from the trailer.
He does.
Yep. Okay. All right. That's my biggest fear. I have seen the guy that got to play Cobra Bubbles, and he's no Ving Rhames.
Why don't they just get Ving Rhames?
Tia Carrara is in the live action, but she's not playing Nani. Obviously, she's way too old now. Yeah. So I don't know if she's the old lady down the street with a fruit cart. I don't know. I don't want to crap on these movies before I see them, but I really have low expectations, and then maybe I'll be surprised.
Yeah, that's the best way to go into it, right?
I know.
That's the best way.
But again, this movie, like, there's nothing I can pick apart with this movie. So watching the live action, I fear that I'm going to be nitpicking it to death. Sorry, Disney. Well, it's gonna happen. And if we cover it, prepare. That's all I gotta say. But Chrissanders is coming back and playing Stitch. He has never left this character in all the iterations. VHS, all the TV series, everything. Yeah, he is there.
He's hopefully has enough in the can where it could be like a James Earl Jones, where Stitch can live on with his voice.
Well, I'm sure you saw in the behind the scenes, like, he's in the recording booth with David Ogden Stiers, who plays Jumba. Didn't he also play Cogsworth in Beauty and the Beast? I think he is. I think he's Cogsworth. He's the clock. But he's also, I mean, if you grew up like me watching MASH, he was Charles Winchester III. But they're in the booth together recording dialogue, which doesn't normally happen. Usually you've got a separate booth and they're interacting with each other. So they're recording both their lines. And Chrissanders is just, sometimes when these guys do these voices or whatever, they contort their faces, like Kevin McDonald. He raises his pitch like 3 octaves in order to get that Pleakley voice in that high frenetic but Chrissanders, it just rolls off his tongue. So yeah, man, take this to the bank. This is his character.
But what's funny about his doing this voice in the documentary is that it wasn't supposed to be him initially. They just had him in this booth as a placeholder.
Correct. Yeah.
So we'll get a real actor later to do this. And then they've like, what are we going to get, a real actor to try to sound like me? So they decided not to do it. But this was a voice that he used to annoy people in the office. It's not like he came up with it for this movie. That was just like what he did. There's multiple takes on this documentary of him trying to hit certain beats because he's not used to doing this voice all the time. He loses it. So like he'll break out of it into his real voice.
But he's got like his own language going. Yeah. Because it is, halfway through the movie before you actually hear Stitch speak any English.
But it's amazing to me that, like, not only can he do this, because you got to contort your mouth in some way to get this voice to come out.
Right.
Same with, and I don't know if this is going to kill everybody out there that are Disney fans, the voice of Donald Duck. I can still, to this day, not figure out how that guy did that. And be intelligible with, words rather than just that's all I could do.
That's why it's an art form.
Yeah.
And it's a lost art form, just like this hand-drawn animation stuff.
But we haven't talked about the big transitional surfing scene yet. which sees Stitch getting closer to the family as they're all surfing. Fancy hair, wants to get some choice
David.
waves. So, yeah.
Yeah. David, this is right. This family's about at their lowest point, and David's like, you know what will make everything better? Let's go surfing. Mm-hmm. And they do. They go out on a board. But Stitch should know better, knowing that he can't swim.
Does he know that he would sink like a stone if he went in there?
I'm trying to think now. I don't think he's in Well, yeah, because otherwise he would have just left the island. He knew that he knew, and
he's not making any effort to get in that water either. He's just
he's on the board, and this is a very heartfelt moment where they all kind of bond, and they get into it. And this is your movie poster right here. Jumba has to go and destroy it, a la the megalodon coming through the waves, and of course he immediately grabs onto Lilo, so they think that he's taking her down. So bad dog. And of course, who witnesses this? Mm-hmm. Cobra Bubbles. Yep. Again, lets it slide. It's just like,
I'll be back in the morning for Lilo. Don't kill her.
Take her now. Just take her now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught it, but there's 2 Mulan references in here as well. And of course, the guy who played David, Jason Scott Lee, was in Mulan. But there's a Mulan walk that they pass at one point, and there's a Mulan poster in Nani's room. And I've seen this movie a billion times, and I've never noticed this.
Really?
So I thought that was interesting. And usually Disney will tease the upcoming movies, but I believe that Mulan came out first. I think Tia Carrere actually plays a character in Mulan as well. Maybe I'm wrong. Did you see that David Chase, who plays Lilo, actually lost Best Animated Movie to her other movie that came out the same year? So Lilo and Stitch was up against Spirited Away, and she did the English dub of the main character.
Oh, really?
And that won Best Animated over Lilo and Stitch. And usually I'll balk about stuff like that, but Spirited Away is a pretty solid movie, whether you watch it in original or dubbed. So I'm not going to take that away from you.
Even David is disapproving after that whole incident on the beach. He's like, they had a chance before you came along.
I know. Just
twist that knife. Twist it.
Salt in the wound.
Yeah.
Well, again, listen, David's motive is no more than I want to get in Nani's pants.
Well, when you look at the character roster on Wikipedia, David is described as Nani's hapless boyfriend.
I don't even think that he would be considered a boyfriend. He was just he would be family. He would be Ohana. He's there for them, but you can't be friends with these women without ulterior motives.
So after the whole beach thing that night, things are awkward between Stitch and Lilo, and Stitch wants to run away, and she's like, I'll always remember you if you do. And that's when he takes the Ugly Duckling book.
Ugly Duckling book, goes off into the woods.
I'm lost, he says.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't talk about one of my favorite scenes. The next morning after she first brings him home, and she just drags him into Nani's room, and Lilo's like, you might want to see this. And she just drops his finger onto the record and opens his mouth, and the record starts playing out of his mouth. You're like, what? That's like that episode of Gilligan's Island where you could pick up the radio stations on his filling, which was also out of Hawaii, by the way. Little known fact on Gilligan's Island. I don't want to tread too far away from our main subject here, but in the opening sequence of Gilligan's Island, and you see the SS Minnow leave the port, the flags are at half mast because it was when JFK died.
Really?
They filmed that afterwards. Yeah. Oh. So little known fun fact. Yeah.
Was that part of the redacted information that just came out in the past couple of weeks? Yes,
I've been pouring through that stuff, and that was redacted.
That was number one.
Correct.
Fact. Yeah.
Did you know? What?
So this is the point where Jumba and Pleakley get fired by the Grand Councilwoman.
I can't believe it took this long. She was already mad at Gantu because he lost them to begin with. So now she's like, all right, now you go get them. And it's like, but you fired me. But now, and now the Grand, what is her name? The Grand Councilwoman. Zoe Caldwell, by the way, who does a fantastic job. There's a couple scenes where she's doing dialogue, And I love, because they're animating to the voice. It's not the other way around. Like they got the large, as an animator, and they plot this stuff out. You got to bring in your actors. You got to do the reads, and then they animate. But it's like, all right, give me that line, but 5 different ways, and then we're gonna pick the best one. 6 months later, yeah, I need you to come back in. We need to do 2 more lines of dialogue. We change this whole sequence, and now you got to come in. Tom Hanks talks about that a lot with playing Woody over the years. Hats off to any of these voice actors that come in here and can pull this stuff off. This is why I don't like, your Brad Pitts of the world. It's like, oh, let's just make a Sinbad movie and his name is Brad Pitt. It's like, what doesn't make him a good voice actor? I can't say enough good stuff about this movie, but this is the low point right here, which is, Stitch has basically been shunned. He's no longer Ohana.
Yeah,
We don't need you. We don't want you.
Lilo.
Yeah. Took her book.
Lilo actually tells Nani that morning he didn't want to be here. We don't need him.
Not that they haven't had their own problems up to that point, but he didn't help. Anybody who thinks that getting a dog is going to fix your relationship or having a baby, this right here, it never works out. That dog turned out to be an intergalactic illegal alien with no green card.
Jumba and Pleakley getting fired doesn't stop them.
No,
now
anything,
Jumba's like,
it
now
emboldens Jumbo. Now we do things my way. And this is a fun, we didn't talk about his character. Again, just a bulbous blob of a character with 4 eyes, and it's just David Ogden Stiers just embodies this character. Like he's doing like this, not like a mad scientist accent per se, but he does sound like he's a little unhinged, which is fun.
So Stitch tries to say, as he's getting captured, Jumba's like, you have no family, but maybe I can.
Yeah, he's like, what, you can speak? Yeah, no universal translators, by the way. Everyone just understands each other.
The house blows up at some point.
Like, Cobra Bubbles should be the one fired. I'm telling you that right now. This guy is not good at his job. I don't care how good he looks in that suit.
Scrump gets blown up. That was probably the worst. They should have deleted that scene.
Yeah. At least it wasn't Pudge.
But yeah, Gantu shows up and he cares nothing about these people. So he captures Lilo and Stitch in the experimental, tube that he puts them both in.
Yep. And even this spaceship, even Gantu's ship has this very organic, like a cross between a wasp and I don't know. It's very bug-like in its design, and it's fun. It's you would think the ship would be bigger because Gantu is just a mammoth character.
The other ship is bigger than Gantu's ship.
Oh yeah. No, this is like a fighter jet where they sent Jumba in like what can only be described as an intergalactic 747.
Right.
That's basically the size of it.
They had to take the place of the actual 747 that was in this sequence. So they probably had to create something that was just as big.
Yeah. So this is what blew me away, which was it's not on any of the. Now you're saying on your disc.
Yes.
They talked about this because I only found this on YouTube. It's not on any of my discs. They don't talk about it in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, with this dropping in 2002, some of these movies take 4 or 5 years. And this was a completed sequence where they break into the airport and steal a 747 to chase after Lilo in Gantu's ship.
Because Stitch gets out of the canister, leaving Lilo behind.
Yeah.
So
reunites with Pleakley and Jumba and Nani, and off they go to rescue Lilo. And so they steal this 747, and it's pretty much the same thing. So where in the final version, it's the alien spaceship, and they're flying through the mountains of Kauai. Kauai is very mountainous on the one side. It was cityscapes. And at one point, the landing gear was still out, and it's running across the side of buildings. And obviously, after 9/11, they just thought it hit a little too close to home, and they went back and reanimated that entire sequence.
So now it's just the ship that Jumba and Pleakley landed on. So It makes
Correct.
sense.
Which it
They
makes
had to
sense,
get
right?
there.
They had to
yeah.
ship, but you never saw this ship. And this reveal is probably one of my favorite moments in this entire movie, and maybe in a lot, which is Lilo is just, she's got her burnt up picture of her family. Stitch has left her. She's being taken by an alien, and she's just resolved that, well, this is the way this is going down. And they're above the cloud line, and you just see the wing of the ship come up a la Jaws shark fin. And then as it rises up, you see the engine, and then it flips over to reveal the whole ship. And it's fantastic. It is just such a great reveal. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it.
Now,
it's
talk
gorgeous.
about the fluidity of the animation, like you were saying before. This has to be.
This is a CG.
CGI.
This is there is a sequence in that behind the scenes stuff that I saw where they were designing the ships in a 3D program. But again, it's all wrapped in a 2D. The other thing I'll say about this is that they really toned down the 3D aspects, where you're not getting, hard shading and hard lighting on either side to create a more 3D environment for this stuff, because the backgrounds are so lush with just this hand painted watercolor stuff that really lends itself to the Hawaiian landscape. But yeah, the ship itself is a 3D construct wrapped in a 2D graphic,
right? Which the plane was as well in the deleted scene.
But it was straight up 747. Matter of fact, there was a scene where Pleakley's in the back on the phone, call those old magazines that the in-flight magazines. Now how many pieces are in this 4-piece luggage set?
In that sequence, in that deleted sequence, the plane's wing comes up as well.
It mimics exactly what they just went back.
But still, it doesn't take anything away from it at all.
No, but it's weird when you think about it. Like you said, they came in a spaceship anyways.
Yeah.
So why
go through the trouble of hijacking a plane?
Correct. I have a wait a minute, we got a spaceship right over here. So it makes perfect sense. It doesn't take you out in any way, shape, or form. But again, 20 plus years, I never knew that even existed. I didn't know that that's what happened.
And I never actually watched Disc 2 because I got all these Disney movies for my son when he was young, right? So Lilo and Stitch was just one of many that I had. And because when he was 4 or 5, he didn't care about a 2-hour documentary about the making of Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah.
So I never popped it in, and this was the first time.
I have to look, because I'm wondering if there's a Blu-ray out there. Now I watch this on Disney Plus, so it's there, and it looks pretty solid. So
yeah, I watched the movie itself on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
and it was extremely clean.
Yeah. So there's one other deleted scene which early in the movie, Lilo is hiding from Donnie. And she crawls into a cabinet that's covered with a pizza box as a door. And apparently the early screens, it's a dryer. It's a tumble dryer.
I assumed that it was a dryer.
That's what I said too, because I'm like, I don't remember it being a pizza box. But a lot of people are saying that was changed when it went to Disney Plus, and it wasn't. It was the first edition of the DVD, but the theatrical release, it was an actual dryer.
I think in the UK, it was changed to that box because there was actually fear in the UK of kids getting in the dryer.
Well, that's a good fear. That's like watching Indiana Jones hide in a refrigerator, and you're like, oh, that's a good idea. No, it's not. No, it's not. Yeah, so it was funny. I saw that, and then when I saw the note in IMDb, I'm like, huh. I said, all right. I guess I remember it always being like a dryer, but like I said, I've always just watched it on DVD, and this is, unless I go back and watch the DVD, and it is the dryer. First edition of the DVD was the last version to feature the tumble dryer scene. So
okay.
I bet
so what I have, it's not on mine then, because mine's not the first edition.
So I bet you mine must be a first edition. Ooh, it's a collector's item.
Ooh, go on eBay, see how much they're selling it for. They don't catch up to Gantu. So Stitch has to take that. This is where he gets his revenge on the truck from the beginning.
This poor guy, he just got all new tires.
Yep. So he takes that same truck, drives it into a volcano because it's a fuel truck. The truck, of course, blows up and rockets Stitch to Gantu's ship.
And this is actually a great sequence, by the way.
Yeah.
How he knew he wasn't going to blow up. That's going to lead me right there. So, but mission accomplished.
Yep. Lilo gets rescued. Everybody's on the beach in the aftermath. Grand Councilwoman shows up to arrest Stitch. But in the beginning, she gave him that chance. Show us that there's something good in you.
Yeah.
There wasn't back then.
Well, it took a couple of weeks on Earth and some shenanigans. But he utters, Ohana. Yeah.
But the killer line is, this is my family. It's little and it's broken, but it's still good.
Yeah. And that's all it takes. She's like, well, crap. I came all this way for nothing.
Yeah.
Someone could have just videotaped this for me.
So again, but she, in a way, is just as bad as Cobra Bubbles. Okay, you can stay here and cause chaos. That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's no longer her problem.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she's got other issues to deal with there in the Galactic Senate.
Yep, and this is where they have a past. The councilwoman in Cobra Bubbles is revealed. Romantic past? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think they're compatible. I think she would have said a little bit more than, do I know you? Yeah, we slept together for 3 weeks. You don't remember that, Roswell?
Now, Nani has a grocery store job. But with that job, she's able to travel the world because...
Yeah, now all of a sudden, it does take a huge leap in logic all of a sudden.
They rebuild the house, first of all.
They go to Graceland.
And then they travel the world.
Yeah, that's how it all plays out. Look, you got to have a happy ending. Yeah. And again, even these little throwaway postcard moments at the end are all hand painted. The Christmas one where Jumba comes in and gives them, Christmas gifts, Lilo, the little flying car.
Yeah.
Underneath the tree. But
the best, of course, the closing shot is Stitch putting himself in Lilo's picture of her family.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Soon to be followed by a 65 episode TV series, which is smart because if you're experiment 626, that means there's 625 still out there. And that's basically what the TV show was every week they had to hunt down another experiment who had different powers. So it's like Pokemon.
So this is all from Jumba. So he should have the death penalty on whatever planet he was on trial for.
Yeah, they made it sound like Stitch was the only one in this movie. That this was the only one that somehow had it sentient and that was causing chaos. But no, it's in the TV series. But again, it's smart because you're taking, you're still leaning into the lore of what was established. That he's 626, so there's probably more out there. And just
unless even in the Lilo and Stitch universe, that's an Easter egg. The Jumba, my favorite movie. The animators were in room 626, so that's what I'm going to name him.
There you go. And I think they had so there's a directed Lilo and Stitch 2. Stitch Has a Glitch came out in 2005. Leroy and Stitch came out in 2006. And there was not only a Japanese anime called Stitch, but there was a manga called Stitch and the Samurai and a Chinese animated series called Stitch and I.
And Chrissanders present on these?
That's my understanding. I mean, they did swap out some of the English actors, but from my understand, he was on board with most of these. Maybe not the overseas stuff. He did the voice throughout all the video games as well. Stitch has had numerous video games as showing up in crossover video games. So, and then were you ever witness to Stitch's Great Escape in Tomorrowland?
I was. I rode that a few times, actually.
Okay. Which is, I think when I was there, it was the alien terror. What was it? The extraterrestrial. Yeah, that does not roll off the tongue. It looks fun on paper, but it's
talking about looking fun on paper. That ride in itself was not fun for kids. I remember.
Was it scary?
It was very scary. It was like,
wait, are we still talking about the Stitch one? Or
no. I'm talking about the extraterrestrial.
Yeah, I remember.
I remember going on that, and there's just like any Disney, there's a couple of pre-shows that you go through as you're waiting in the line before you actually make it to the theater.
Yep.
And after the last pre-show where you're kind of given, the lowdown of the story you're about to sit through, okay, you're going to be witness to this prisoner transfer of this cute little alien, but what happens is something else gets beamed in. There's something with the transfer. So whatever, this one little kid, maybe 5 or 6 years old, knew obviously that this was not something he wanted to experience. His father was dragging him into the theater.
Listen, I'm guilty of it.
Dad was having none of it. Dad was getting on this experience, and the kid was screaming like, please, no, and he was like dragging the kid.
This kid not only ruined it for his dad, he ruined it for everyone on board, and he's probably still in therapy over it.
Luckily, this kid wasn't in the show that I was in.
Oh, okay,
like it was
good.
before the doors closed.
Right.
The Stitch ride basically replaced the alien with Stitch. It was the same setup. So you go through the first pre-show, and the Grand Councilwoman came on screen, same voices. You are a recruit of Intergalactic Police Force, and you will
Is she animated, or is
she's animated just like in the movie? So it's just
Okay.
like a scene from the movie, and she's on the screen talking to you.
Okay.
You will be part of the police force. You will oversee the transfer of a very dangerous experiment. And then Gantu comes on with some safety tips and to scold the audience to be on their guard. Then you go through another live action where there's a robot, and it's the same robot that they used in the Alien.
Didn't even redress him, huh?
Didn't even redress him. It's just he's just got another.
It's nice he didn't lose his job.
No, he didn't. He's just got different dialogue. So then you go through into the actual theater, and the most impressive thing to me were the guns, because they have those fluid guns that they have at the beginning of Lilo and Stitch, focused on Stitch. And he does the same thing. A beautiful Stitch animatronic appears in the tube in the middle of the theater.
Okay.
And he spits into the audience. And of course, it's a jet it's a jet of water that comes 4D out. Yeah. And then the guns follow the spit, just like it does in the movie. Fake fires into the audience, then the lights go out, and then Stitch escapes. Instead of a monster in your speakers, you hear Stitch.
I want to say that I did do that, because I do have the animated animatronic inside the tube.
It was a fantastic animatronic, and this ride is so maligned by Disney buffs. This is one of the worst rides ever, or one of the worst experiences, because it's not really a ride ever in the Magic Kingdom. And I think it's unjustly so. A lot of people say, because there's at one point where Stitch burps into your ears, and then they pump the smell of like a cheese dog or something.
Okay.
And people say that smell nauseated me. I'm like, it smelled like a cheese dog. It didn't smell like
smell-o-vision. Smell-o-vision. Hey, listen, they're trying to break the fourth wall there.
But I will say this, that so it was there from, let me see, I've got this up here.
Yeah, I don't have the dates.
It debuted in 2004 in the Magic Kingdom, and it was taken out in 2018. And when I say taken out, I don't know. It could still be there. It's just shut down.
So nothing ever replaced it?
Nothing ever replaced it. It's just
question.
It's a dead building right now. Over the years, during my various trips to Disney, obviously the first time I did the Stitch encounter, everything was going. It looked great. It fell into disrepair pretty quickly. There was a lot of effects that weren't working the last time I rode it, that they just didn't bother to fix. Yeah.
That's very disappointing to hear.
It is.
With the money that you're spending to go into those parks nowadays, you better transport me. I don't want to see any nuts and bolts. That is not Walt's vision.
Nope, not at all.
Wow.
And it's the same thing, because they're closing down. An opening day attraction in the Animal Kingdom was A Bug's Life 3D movie.
Yep.
At one point, a fantastic animatronic of Hopper appears. in front of the screen.
Right.
And it's giant. That for the past couple of years hasn't even appeared because I guess if it doesn't work, I don't know. I can't tell you the last time I saw that Hopper animatronic, and now they're taking the thing out.
Are we just losing? Your son better step up. We need him more than ever.
Yeah,
he's got to go back in. It's a lost art. It's Imagineering.
Definitely.
Get those animatronics.
So
wow.
so it did spawn not only that Disney ride, but countless books, toys, because this was a hit. It's not like it disappeared, Lilo and Stitch.
Well, it's funny because I was Googling this morning, like little known fun facts or whatever. And I don't remember where the article was, but the opening was like, a lost Disney movie. We all grew up with Tarzan and we all grew up with these, but a lot of people forgot about this. I'm like, no, they didn't.
No, not at all.
What are you talking about?
You don't see countless spin-offs of Tarzan. You see it for Lilo and Stitch.
I think what the Tarzan thing is, they lost the license. They don't have the rights.
Oh.
They really downplay Tarzan now because they don't have you're not going to see a live action remake of that.
Yeah.
Which we already had. If you want to go back to 1936 with Johnny Weissmuller, the original, but
which is interesting because I think at one of it might be California, they changed the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse to the Tarzan treehouse. I wonder if that's still there. But Lilo and Stitch on an $80 million budget made $273 million worldwide. Not in the billions like we see today for some of these bigger Disneys,
but 80 million is a pretty small budget.
Yeah.
For stuff like this. And like I said, they kind of use Dumbo as their guide in more ways than one, which was, let's just pare this back. Let's just do a simple story, no elaborate backgrounds, no 3D deep canvas. I can't even imagine what Tarzan cost to make. But again, it's all there on the screen. Like it's phenomenal. But this is what I think makes it so intimate and endearing to me. I feel that the characters just speak to any parent or kid, who's dealing with loss, and the idea of Ohana, I don't know. It's so heartwarming for me. And I love this movie to no end.
Cinema score was A, so audiences loved it as well. Roger Ebert, 3.5 out of 4 stars.
Oh, look at that.
It's one of the most charming feature-length cartoons of recent years. Funny, sassy, startling, original, and with 6 songs by Elvis. It doesn't get sickeningly sweet at the end. It has as much stuff in it for grown-ups as for kids, and it has a bright, offbeat look to it.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Although that last Elvis song is sung by Winona Judd.
I was wondering who that was.
Yeah, although she just goes by Winona. I guess when you got a first name like that, you can be a Madonna or a Cher, but it's Winona Judd. It's a solid rendition of Hunka Hunka Burnin' Love. And it's a fun way to send a movie out. So I'm not going to falter for that.
Yeah, not too many detractors in terms of critics, but one of them.
Oh, I want to hear this.
Owen Gleiberman,
Entertainment
Weekly.
Owen! I was waiting for you to tell me it was Maslin.
No, I think this is past the era of Maslin.
Okay.
But Owen, the story is witless and oddly defanged. Stitch gets discovered by Lilo, a Hawaiian girl who's the whiniest of whiny brats.
Wow.
These two become friends in theory only. It's terrible.
He's missing the whole point of this movie.
Hopefully, maybe he's reassessed his original opinion of Lilo and Stitch.
I think Roger Ebert did that, where he was at least willing to go back and be like, all right, I really crapped on this movie, but I've watched it since and I learned to appreciate it. Sometimes your whole job is to be critical, right?
But for this particular episode, it is not our job to be critical of Lilo and Stitch.
Not this go around. No.
So do you want to do the honors here?
I am going to do the honors. I am officially inducting Lilo and Stitch into the 5 Bucket Club.
There we go.
You cannot take that away from us, Owen Gleiberman.
Mm.
Yes.
It's in there.
It
It's
is
set in stone.
It is solidified.
Lilo and Stitch.
And if you haven't seen this movie in a while or ever, go check it out. It is on Disney Plus, and you will be heartwarmed.
So, from what you said before, you did not see this in the theater. The first time was at home?
It had to have been. Yeah, it was probably something I picked up on disc. I can't remember. I wouldn't have taken my kids that young. My daughter would have only been 2, and my son was born in May. So, yeah, I did escape. Every now and again.
That wouldn't have stopped most theater goers, unfortunately, from my experience.
You know, you just told the story about this kid at the extraterrestrial. It just brings back watching the original Spider-Man 2 in the theater, and that horrific scene where Dr. Octopus's arms go nuts and kill all the surgeons, and this little boy in front of me was like, Dad, this is scaring me. Dad, I don't like this. And the dad was just like, shh, just look away. And I'm like, this kid does not want to be witness to this. You have to do the right thing. But I do remember we took my daughter and my nephew to go see a live action Scooby-Doo at Radio City, and my daughter wanted no part of it, and the wife had to take her out because I didn't want to leave. I was a bad dad that day.
I was there at Disney at the Magic Kingdom the year that they opened Stitch's Great Escape.
Okay.
And they had a giant inflatable Stitch sitting on top of the building.
Really? Oh, I gotta Google
huge Stitch sitting on top of the building.
Oh, wow.
So hopefully that still exists. But yeah, I think that was up there for maybe a year, 6 months to a year. Yeah.
Oh, now it's probably just sitting in a warehouse somewhere.
Yeah.
You can meet Stitch if you go into the park. Stitch is there.
Yes, we've got pictures
Lilo.
with Stitch.
Yep,
We've got
pictures with Lilo and Stitch. I hope that the live action does good. It sounds like there's a lot of people. My son was even talking about it yesterday with his friends, and they're all on board. They want to go see it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I do throw umbrage sometimes at these live action remakes, but apparently they're not for me.
Well, we'll give it a shot, right?
Yeah,
we'll give it a shot.
But I wanted to. We didn't even talk about Alan Silvestri, who is the composer, because he's pretty solid.
But amazingly, he didn't write that song. Right?
Hunga or the Hawaiian roller coaster. No, It looks like Chris Sanders had his hand in that one. So Alan Silvestri, this is pretty solid all around. 5 Bucket.
All right, Lilo and Stitch. So
yes.
Next time.
So
next
back
time, to the theater, right?
This is interesting. Yes. We're going with mythological creatures. We're going to go kill some. This looks. I had no clue that this movie even existed until you made reference to it, and I looked up the trailer, and I'm completely on board with this.
Death of a unicorn.
You're like, what? Death of a unicorn.
This might be a sleeper hit. You know, it's not being widely marketed right now, but it's got Jenna Ortega, who is like, America's sweetheart at this point.
Right now, man, she's riding high.
Yeah. Paul Rudd.
Who is ageless and also American.
Until Quantumania could do no wrong, but
I'll give him a pass on that.
So this is like I would say this is a horror comedy in that genre.
Yes, that's exactly what it's looking like.
But I'm very excited about our second feature next week, because this may be the first time we've revisited a movie, maybe not, but that we've revisited a movie that we've already covered. In this case, it is Ridley Scott's Legend, a favorite of both of ours.
Yes.
And so we did the U.S. theatrical version many moons ago. So we did the U.S. Tangerine Dream soundtracked version of Legend, which U.S. audiences are very familiar with. We threatened at that time, maybe someday we'll come back and we'll do the European version, which has a completely different musical score by Jerry Goldsmith.
And someday is here. It's now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is going to be interesting because I don't think I've ever sat through this in its entirety. The Tangerine Dream soundtrack is such a huge part.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about this. That this is going to completely change the feel of this.
This
movie.
is going to be a different movie completely. Just with the music alone.
Get in talking about why this happened, and it's not unprecedented. I just mentioned Alan Silvestri. Apparently, he scored 23 minutes of Mission Impossible before they took him off it and replaced him with Danny Elfman. Stuff like this happens, but this is a movie where, like you said, Tangerine Dream, that soundtrack is so synonymous with my memories of this movie. And if you didn't pick up on it, there is a unicorn theme.
Yes. That's the whole crux of this double feature is the unicorn.
But as Jim mentioned, we did threaten to at some point talk about the Jerry Goldsmith score, and so here we go.
Yeah. So Death of the Unicorn and Legend next time.
Yes. I'm assuming you have a DVD that has this version on it?
I have the Blu-ray, and it's got the extended director's cut and the U.S. theatrical cut. So I am going to go on today to make sure that the extended cut is in fact the Jerry Goldsmith version.
Okay. I'm going to have to. I do have a 2-disc box set that I'm going to look at. I think that both are on there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't even know, even if it's streaming, if you'd be able to see either version, both versions. So.
Right. And it's fascinating to me that European audiences just don't know the Tangerine Dream version.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
It's crazy because it's so unique, as is this movie.
If anything, you'd think it would be the other way around, that they'd get the Tangerine Dream version and we'd get the Jerry Goldsmith version.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we'll talk about it next time and find out what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
So, but until then, thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you.
Don't forget, you are all our Ohana. Ohana, Red family. Mika, Nana, Krista. There you go.
Fantastic.
Fantastico. And we just lost all our listeners.
Well, at least the episode's over, right? So
there you go.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, bye.
Oh, boy.
If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your podcasts on. Also, be sure to email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
You can also follow us on all of our socials. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, Threads. Just go to tmiconfessionalspodcast.com. All of our links are there. And leave us a 5-star review. See you at the concession stand. Mika, Nana, Krista!